This is KC Sports Tonight.
And here we go. Welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Marleah Campbell, Gabe Swartz. Lot to talk about. Gabe, before we started rolling, I was just telling you, I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, one more day to talk about roster cut predictions. We don't have any new data from Thursday. I don't necessarily think any guys greatly increase or decrease their stock on Thursday anyway, which we can get into. But then we had a good old-fashioned major signing the day before roster cut day. So Juju Smith-Schuster, the former Chief, you can see some of his stats on the bottom there if you're watching this. If you're listening to it, we'll run through them real quick. Last 3 seasons, he spent 2021 with the Steelers, 15 catches, 129 yards, no scores. 2022, with the Chiefs in that Super Bowl run, he was actually the team's top receiver next to only Travis Kelce in terms of yards for the season, and he missed a couple of games too, but 78 catches, 933 yards, 3 touchdowns. Then he says, I want to stay in Kansas City. There's a soundbite of him saying that. Just doesn't work out, and he ends up going to New England, signs a 3-year deal there. Last season, 29 catches for 260 yards and a score in 11 games. Then New England waives him earlier this month. And I think, maybe some people around Chiefs Kingdom were like, okay, well, that's, we could potentially pick him up, but we have a pretty deep receiver room. That competition is already heated. But alas, the Chiefs announced it. It's officially official today. He was even at practice today, so he's already working out with the team. Gabe, we can get into, what this means for the other guys currently on the roster in a second, but I want to start with just your take on, bringing Juju back to KC.
Yeah, I mean, you said major signing. I think it's as major of a signing as you can make for a wide receiver 5.
Yeah,
which is not, that's not like to be rude or anything, but when Hollywood Brown is healthy, you got Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy had a great preseason, looked really good in the Lions game, the second preseason game, the first one at Arrowhead. And then Justin Watson is just kind of an old reliable from what we've seen the last 2 years with Patrick Mahomes. Juju Smith-Schuster is a little bit more of that. It's just a matter of he's going to have the, trust of Patrick Mahomes. We saw that he's had more trust with Patrick Mahomes than Sky Moore did, or Sky Moore has had throughout his career. He's definitely going to have more trust than Kadarius Toney, and I know that in limited snaps, Justin Ross hasn't necessarily built a crazy rapport with Mahomes. So in comparison to all those guys, this is somebody who the coaching staff at least feels like they can trust. It's just a matter of, is his ankle healthy? Is his knee healthy? The numbers in Pittsburgh and New England were both seriously hampered by the fact that he was hurt. I forget what it was in Pittsburgh. I believe it was his knee. And then I know in New England, his body didn't necessarily adjust to their turf great. And is probably a pretty solid reason as to why the Chiefs didn't want to give him whatever it was, $21 million, and like $14 million of it guaranteed over a 3-year deal, and New England waived that. So the Chiefs are just giving him a veteran's minimum. It's a pretty much low risk. I wouldn't say high reward, because I don't think that there's an outcome where he is a top 3 receiver on this team. But I think I think there's a world where he scores as many touchdowns as he did in 2022. Touchdowns are such a volatile stat that if the Chiefs are just a really good red zone team, he could get opportunities filling the void for in zone, which we know teams play a ton of against the Chiefs. So I'm completely okay with the signing, and I think that it's just another person that if you're going to have 5 through 7 be people who are going to have any role, they need to be trusted by number 15 in red. And we have a season's worth of evidence where he would have been 1,000-yard receiver if he didn't have that concussion in the Jaguars game, where he just got drilled over the middle. So we've got a season's worth of evidence that Juju Smith-Schuster can get on the same page as Mahomes in a 1-year sample. We're hoping that that's what Hollywood Brown does in his 1-year contract, but we don't know if that'll happen or not. But Juju has done it before. As a wide receiver 5, I think this is a great move.
So, yeah, I agree with that. I have a couple things. One, I think it is a low risk, and I would say high reward in the case of Juju. You saw the Chiefs do this last year with McCole Hardman, where they let him go. Contract things didn't really work out. He went to the Jets. Then he came back on a minimum salary, and who caught the game-winning Super Bowl touchdown? Not saying that that's necessarily going to happen with Juju. I mean, if it does, we will definitely cut this clip and post it somewhere in a couple months. But I mean, just having a reliable, experienced player coming back into this room that has had really good chemistry with Mahomes. Again, when he was healthy, 933 yards, didn't play the entire season, could have had 1,000 had he stayed healthy. I really like this move, and I'll say this. Hollywood Brown, fortunately, that shoulder injury, clavicle injury, could have been a lot worse, so it's looking like he's questionable for week 1. We don't know after that, but it definitely sounds like it could have been a longer-term thing, no surgery required. But that's just an example of kind of how fickle this game and this position is. So you have Hollywood already out. Again, we've harped on this. We don't know if and when a Rashee Rice suspension is coming down. I would put Juju healthy right there with Justin Watson. I think he could go tick for tack in terms of experience. And, Juju is extremely explosive. And, Justin Watson was on that 2022 roster, and you kind of saw who the ball went to. But so I like this move. I think it provides, a staple, solid guy, a reliable player, barring, the injury asterisk, which is a massive asterisk, as we have learned very early on. I'll add this, too, though. No matter how happy you are, if you are a member of Chiefs Kingdom, you are not happy if your name is Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, or Sky Moore, because that position battle, as we've talked about on the show frequently, was already extremely tight. I know we're gonna have a name that Chiefs Kingdom is very familiar with, not end up making the roster. And this just kind of threw a wrench in that even more, 24 hours before the cut deadline. So who do you think this is the worst? Well, and I guess I could add Nico Remigio in there as well in terms of
I think that he'll just end up back on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have that when people only watch the Chiefs or they're so hyper-focused on the Chiefs, you get into this world where you think if you cut somebody, they're automatically getting picked up by somebody else, and most of the time that's not the case. So I think Remigio will be back. I think that Justin Ross, if he's cut, can make it back on the practice squad. I think if Kadarius Toney is cut, it's a different situation because you're moving on from a guy who, like it or not, believes in him, has been told in his life he's a first-round pick, he's a first-round talent.
He literally was, yeah.
And so therefore he just has such a inflated self-belief of what his worth is in terms of a roster. I think he would just want to take his chances with hopefully a third franchise giving him a shot. It's just such an ego blow for a guy 3 years into their career as a first-round pick to
end up on
in year 4 end up on a practice squad. I don't think he would come back, even if that would be an option or something. I don't even know if that's something that the Chiefs would want at this point.
Yeah.
So I think that in terms of just in value of who they trust most to do the wide receiver stuff, even though there's not a lot of evidence of him being on the same page as Mahomes, Sky Moore, I think, is going to be the wide receiver 7. And so, but we've had plenty of evidence over the last 2 years.
So you're saying goodbye to Toney, Remigio,
and Ross.
Okay.
And I think Remigio and Ross are back on the practice squad.
Okay.
I think Kadarius Toney is going to a new team.
Okay.
I would say that that's the case. And just that you can say, and I was discussing this with Neil last week about the roster and why 5 through 7 is certainly it matters because we've seen in the playoffs you needed big catches from MVS. You needed McCole Hardman got the Super Bowl walk-off winning touchdown. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney scored touchdowns against the Eagles 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. So yes, it's important to have guys that Patrick Mahomes trusts in the playoffs, and 5 through 7 will matter. It shouldn't matter as much if the top of your receiving core is as good as we expect the Rice, Worthy, Brown, Watson, and then obviously add Kelsey in as much.
Yeah.
So yes. I think that this is the strongest wide receiver room they've had since 2020.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I don't think we've gone into any of these camps these last couple of years with such meat in the 1 through 4, and even add 5 in there, and then such a tight competition between numbers 6 and 9, or maybe even 10, because. I was about to ask you to make your case for Sky Moore, not because I disagree with you, but because I'm just curious, because I think any one of these guys, Nico Remigio, Dave Tope has said he really wants him. He is one of the best returners in college football. The new kickoff rules, he'd be invaluable. Kadarius Toney, you have the athleticism. Justin Ross had a really good camp. I'm curious your take on keeping more.
I think that, in the preseason he's had 2 or 3 explosive kick returns. I don't think that he necessarily would need to be asked to be the punt returner when you have McCole Hardman and Xavier Worthy ahead of him. So he can be, and you've even got a Justin Watson who's been able to go back there and at least catch the ball. But in a pinch, if Sky Moore is your 4th punt returner and he is asked to do it, he had one great one against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. So I just think that there's, in terms of a special teams, which is what wide receiver 7 is going to have to contribute on special teams to a certain extent, whether it's being a gunner on punt team or being somebody who's out there on kickoff coverage, let alone kickoff return. I think that Sky Moore contributes way more than Justin Ross does.
Yeah.
And that's and they're going to believe in the second round talent more than undrafted free agent Nico Remigio. And it's more likely that Nico can make it back through practice squad.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you there. Okay, let's move on because we could do our entire show on this. But Chiefs early cut. So today they announced they waived a dozen players. Again, you and I were talking before the show. These were all, I would say all but one were fairly expected. The 3 kind of bummers for the local area comes at the K-State, for the K-State kids. Echo Boyda, the cornerback out of Lawrence High School, Phillip Brooks, wide receiver out of Lee Summit West, and long snapper Brandon Plattner out of Park Hill, all of them K-State guys. All of them waived today. Okay, let's go backwards. Plattner, even he expected that. That was just kind of a signing in place of James Winchester recovering from that shoulder injury. Winchester's season backup, by the way, is Travis Kelce, so you're not really fighting for the backup long snapper spot by any means. So that was just a quick signing. Good for him to get some tape. The reality of the league is people get hurt, so I'm sure he'll be watching on Sundays. Not hoping anyone gets hurt, but if they do, expecting a phone call. So his shot at the NFL certainly is not over. Phillip Brooks, again, just the wide receiver room was so competitive this year. He fell out of the conversation, I think, pretty early just because of kind of the totem pole above him. I hope he has a camp I think about him. I know they're a different position, but Deneric Prince last year had a nice camp. People were excited about him. He just didn't fit on the roster. That would be my hope for Brooks, is to play on the practice squad, come back next year, and maybe show up. And then the biggest surprise of this group, I would say, is Echo Boydo, who played 6 games.
He played in 6 regular season games last year and spent the whole year on the practice squad.
Had a nice special teams play, and so he'll, as you mentioned, probably re-up with the practice squad. But the surprise to me was Kelvin Joseph, the cornerback.
Yeah.
He was very much in the conversation for that cornerback 2 role that has still yet to be filled as of our last press conference with Steve Spagnuolo, side to Trent McDuffie. So he had some injury issues throughout camp, but he wasn't out the whole time. He was circling in. He had a hamstring deal, and so that's a bit surprising. But anything jump out to you with today's cuts, Gabe?
No, the Kelvin Joseph stuff is interesting because Steve Spagnuolo hasn't really, you would have thought, given how much better they've played in comparison to where they were drafted or what was expected of them in the early parts of their career, that Josh Williams and Jalen Watson would at the very least be somebody that Steve Spagnuolo is comfortable with at cornerback 2, and that he wouldn't be consistently being like, oh, I'm really
saying
nobody's
no
stepping up, or
we're
really worried about this. You wouldn't expect him to have to say that. And to say that neither of those 2 took control. Jalen Watson played, I don't know what the snap count was, but if there was anything worth noting from Thursday night against the Bears, it's that Jalen Watson played tons in that
he's
game.
Coming back from that shoulder.
And so I guess if it was just to get him reps thing, it is what it is. But that's kind of the fact that there's still so much uncertainty there is a little odd. Neil was saying that it might be something that you could look back on and say, this is the reason the Chiefs don't go deep in the playoffs. And I was just I just don't believe that. I don't think that
now's the time to get those hot takes out, though, because if they pan out,
I just don't think that cornerback play is going to be the thing that does it for them. But
well,
that's just me believing in Dave Merritt as much as anything else. He's just shown that over the course of the year, he's going to get what he needs out of that position group.
I agree with you, and with Trent McDuffie as your anchor, and certainly none of those guys, kind of the guys fighting for that second spot, I don't think it's a state of, oh my God, these guys are all terrible. It's, who's going to step up and really solidify themselves as the number 2. So I actually think they're strong at that position. They have a lot of DBs. The problem is they're also like neck and neck. Like there isn't a lot of separation between. Trent McDuffie has separated himself as that guy. Like they have had from the beginning of camp, it is Trent and who else. So no one's really stepped up there so far. Josh Williams, I thought was the leader in camp. Then he kind of had a rough first preseason game. I think it was in Jacksonville. He got he was going one-on-one against a rookie and got caught a couple times looking. But we'll see. Again, kind of this. You get caught up in the numbers and literally the numbers in sense if we can move to the next one. With the players they cut today,
They still have
if
to
you
get rid
trust
of
my
26
subtraction, 26 more to cut. So you get caught up in that and position groups and stuff that you don't forget, but you have to remember that, these are real people who had their dreams crushed today. I mean, whether it was expected or not. And there's still a path forward for a lot of them, practice squad, getting picked up somewhere else. But, we were at training camp. It is a long, grueling off season. So tough news for the guys today. But as you mentioned certainly a lot of paths forward. So we'll see how tomorrow goes, because tomorrow's the big day. You got 12 cuts today, 26 more tomorrow to get to the final 53. Gabe, before we move on to Royals, because we have a big conversation there, any parting thoughts heading into tomorrow?
The only other thing is that they got rid of Ian Book today, so
yeah.
Chris Oladikan, I guess, gets the QB3 spot. I mean, that was kind of known based on snap count of preseason, but I think there was some people who were like, he had a couple ugly interceptions in preseason games, so maybe that would impact things. And Andy Reid, I think Thursday night, he said he tipped his cap to Ian Book. So
as in a goodbye.
As in, I guess so. I guess that's what that meant.
Hit the old dusty trail. Okay. All right, we're going to be talking so much more Chiefs tomorrow, because this is just a massive time of year leading up to, what are we, till 11 days from the season opener? Again, don't trust my subtraction,
10,
but
10.
we're really getting close. So big roster cut day tomorrow. We're going to be getting a lot into that. It's also a huge day, though, for the Royals, beginning a 4-game series at Cleveland. You can see the numbers down there for those of you watching us. I should actually, is that 2 games? Yeah, they're 2 games back.
Yep.
Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, did I update that after the doubleheader? Because we had some matinee baseball today. Royals had it was just a fun game to watch. MJ Melendez had a 3-run home run, an insane diving catch a couple innings later, and then Bobby Wood Jr. hit what eventually ended up being the game-winning solo home run in the 8th to take down Cleveland 4-3. So chipping away at it in the AL Central, 2 games out of first place. You're a half game back from the top wild card spot, and that cushion for the last wild card spot is getting a little bit bigger. You're at a 5-game lead now. We've seen that kind of creep slowly up and up over the last couple of weeks. So
it's 5.5 now because Boston lost the opener of their doubleheader.
Yep.
They're playing 2 against the Blue Jays. So if the Royals win tonight and the Red Sox lose to the Blue Jays, not only are the Royals ahead of the Twins by half a game for that second wild card spot, so they're not technically in the last spot at the moment.
Yep.
I mean, they could be 6 clear or 6.5 clear of a playoff spot by the end of the night, which I think the last I looked, Fangraphs had their playoff odds at 84% before tonight's game. And if the Royals win tonight, they would surpass their preseason win total projections from, I believe I saw that on DraftKings in March. So
it's a stat on the bottom right now too. 73.5 was the preseason prediction, and they're 73-58 right now. So did you see that coming?
No.
Were you at the beginning of the year? Because Jared
not.
Kohler every year, I hope he's listening, says this is the year, and he was right this year.
Sometimes optimism pays off for him.
Yeah, literally. So okay, big day for the Royals. They just got underway for their second game in Cleveland. Again, just a massive series. I mean, we've talked about this, playing teams in the division, how you can really narrow that gap double as quickly. Really liked how they looked in game 1. So another big one coming up tonight.
they get Cleveland for, it was 7 of their next 10, so now it's 6 of their next 9 games.
Yeah.
With 1 more tonight, 2 more over Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they get Cleveland Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week at Kauffman. I mean, a huge week ahead of you. I mean, you could go to 7 straight days of an athletic event at the Truman Sports Complex next week, and whether it's the Royals playing Cleveland or whether it's the Royals playing Minnesota over the weekend after, and then you got sandwiched in the middle of it, Chiefs opening night. So I would think that people will be making the trek out there to the K and to Arrowhead for a lot of games next week with how impactful they'll be.
Yeah, Friday night, I think the crowd was like 25,000 or something. It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, just an extremely high-stakes week and just an incredible opportunity to, if we go back to those stats really quick, just continuing to, 1, chip away in the AL Central, but 2, just start to increase those pads. Because I'm not going to say comfortable, but it's sure feeling a lot better than when we were kind of tick for tack watching it go half game, 1.5 games, half game, negative 0.5 games ahead of the Red Sox for that wild card spot. So.
I mean, you can just think about like how often it felt like the Royals in the AL Central were at a point where it was 5.5, it was 6 games, and how every day, even when they're winning, it felt like Cleveland was winning. Now you're at the point where the Royals are that team where every time that Boston wins, they look up and they go, oh, Kansas City won again.
Yep.
And I was listening to a little bit of the Red Sox broadcast this afternoon before coming into work, and their radio people were being like, man, it feels like every time that we win, Kansas City wins too.
Yeah,
and so you're almost, if you know that's kind of seeping into the clubhouse in Boston, that like the mountain is just getting steeper and steeper and the games are diminishing off the schedule. There's only 31 left. So they're in a really good spot. And I think that the encouraging thing, I know that it was not great over the weekend of like 45 hits in 3 games against Phillies.
We skimmed right by that, didn't we?
But a really encouraging showing from the bullpen this afternoon, because Cole Reagans only gave them 4 innings, and the bullpen was able to get 15 outs. And Lucas Ursig was shut down again at the end. John Schreiber's looked really good since he's come back off the IL. And they've flipped a bunch of things around with bringing Daniel Lynch up, bringing Carlos Hernandez up, and Will Smith going to the IL, and Zerpa going back down to AAA. So we'll see what they do. But it's absolutely another huge 2-week stretch here.
Yeah, and it begins right now. Again, just got underway in Cleveland. We'll have highlights from the first game if you missed it coming up at 6. Not going to want to miss those. Just a great day for MJ Melendez, which is cool to see. And then we'll have highlights from this game coming on right now at 10, and we're going to take a look at the AL Central scoreboard and kind of the bigger context of what all that means. But for now, the next time we hop on this chat will be the Chiefs will have a 53-man roster, which is hard to believe. So for now, that is it, but we'll see you back here tomorrow at 5:30.